A 12-year-old girl in 1923 could feed a family of 8 through a brutal winter. No grocery store, no DoorDash, no frozen meals, just her hands, her knowledge, and what the land gave her. Today, most adults can't keep a houseplant alive. That's not an accident. That's by design. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization documented over 7,000 traditional food preservation techniques used across human civilizations for thousands of years. Anthropologists at Oxford studied homestead communities from the 1800s and found that the average rural child had mastered more practical survival skills by age 10 than the average modern adult ever will. NASA, yes, NASA, has spent decades studying closed-loop food systems based on ancient homestead principles for long-term space missions. They didn't invent this knowledge. They borrowed it from your great-grandmother. Here's what nobody tells you. These skills weren't lost. They weren't forgotten. They were erased, systematically, one by one. Starting in the 1950s, a deliberate campaign by food corporations, chemical companies, and processed food manufacturers slowly convinced an entire generation that cooking from scratch was primitive, that preserving your own food was dangerous, that growing your own medicine was unscientific. They didn't bury this knowledge because it failed. They buried it because it worked too well. A family that could preserve its own food, heal its own ailments, and build its own tools didn't need to buy anything. And that was a problem, a billion-dollar problem, so they killed it. Slowly, quietly, through convenience culture. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you is what they replaced with a monthly grocery bill. Skill number 1, lacto-fermentation. Picture a farmhouse kitchen in rural Pennsylvania, 1908. A mother and her daughter, maybe 11 years old, are packing cabbage into a clay crock. Salt, pressure, time. By winter, that crock would contain something more powerful than any vitamin supplement on a pharmacy shelf today, lacto-fermentation. Your great-grandmother didn't call it that. She called it putting up food. The science is staggering. Fermented vegetables contain billions of live probiotic cultures that modern gastroenterologists now link to immune function, mental health, and gut integrity. A $4 head of cabbage becomes 6 months of preserved living food. The probiotic supplements at your pharmacy? $40 bottle, made in a factory. Trying to replicate what a clay crock does naturally. This is just the beginning. What to do? Shred cabbage, mix with 2% salt by weight, pack tightly into a glass jar, press until submerged in its own liquid, cover loosely, wait 5 to 7 days, done. Cost, under $2. Shelf life, up to a year. Skill number 2, rendering animal fat. In the 1800s, lard was not the enemy. It was the engine of the homestead. Your great-grandmother rendered her own fat because she understood something the vegetable oil industry spent 100 years trying to hide. Animal fat, properly rendered, is shelf-stable without refrigeration. It can be used for cooking, waterproofing leather, making candles, treating skin conditions, and lubricating tools. One animal, dozens of uses. The vegetable oil industry didn't just win a market war. They funded studies, influenced nutrition guidelines, and buried a multi-purpose household resource that cost nothing. The seed oils they replaced it with? Highly processed, industrially extracted, chemically deodorized, and sold to you for $8 a bottle. Rendering lard costs almost nothing if you source fat from a local butcher, often free or near free, and it stores at room temperature for over a year without going rancid when rendered correctly. What happens next in this list changes how you think about your kitchen forever. Skill number 3, reading weather without technology. No satellite, no weather app, no radar. And yet, your great-grandmother knew a storm was coming 2 days before it arrived. This wasn't folklore. This was pattern recognition science built over generations. Cloud formations, wind direction, animal behavior, humidity felt in the skin and joints. Farmers relied on a living weather system that was accurate enough to save harvests and lives. The U.S. Signal Corps, the precursor to the National Weather Service, actually documented traditional weather prediction methods in the 1870s and found rural farmers had comparable short-range accuracy to their early instruments. Today, we've outsourced this intelligence entirely to a phone that loses signal in a crisis. Skill number 3 is knowing your environment well enough that technology becomes optional, not essential. Red sky at morning, sailors take warning. That's not poetry, that's atmospheric optics. Specific wavelengths of light scattering through moisture-laden air. Your great-grandmother understood the output, even if she didn't know the physics. You can learn the basics in a single afternoon. We're only 3 skills in. The next 7 get even more practical. And the one at number 7? That one specifically was targeted by a major American industry lobby in 1958. Don't go anywhere. Skill number 4, seed saving, 4 to 455. In 1994, the U.S. planted over 200 varieties of commercially available corn. By 2014, that number had collapsed. Why? Because seed companies patented life. Literally. They engineered seeds that couldn't reproduce, Terminator seeds, so farmers had to buy new ones every single year. Your great-grandmother saved seeds like her life depended on it, because it did. She selected the best tomato from the best plant, dried the seeds, stored them in paper envelopes labeled with dates and notes, and replanted them the following spring. Generation after generation, her seeds became stronger, more adapted to her specific soil and climate. What she had was a living library. What Monsanto sold was a subscription. Seed saving costs nothing. You literally take a seed from your best vegetable, dry it, and store it in a cool, dark place. That's it. One packet of heirloom tomato seeds today costs $4 to $6 at a garden center. Your great-grandmother's method? Free, forever, compounding. Skill, number 5. Herbal medicine, making. There was a woman in Appalachia named Granny Women. That's what they were called, the community herbalists, the healers. Every mountain community had one. These women, often taught by their grandmothers, knew which plant stopped bleeding, which root reduced fever, which bark calmed a cough, which leaf drew out infection. Their knowledge was clinical. Their results were documented. In 1910, the Flexner Report, funded largely by the Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations, systematically dismantled herbal and alternative medicine education in America. Medical schools that taught plant medicine lost their funding and closed. Within a generation, pharmaceutical manufacturing had replaced 1,000 years of botanical knowledge. They didn't eliminate it because it didn't work. Willow bark, the source of aspirin, is a folk remedy dating back to ancient Egypt. They eliminated it because you can't patent a plant. Skill 5 is learning to make a basic herbal tincture, a poultice, and an infused oil. A jar of calendula infused oil takes 4 weeks to make and costs under $3. A comparable skin healing ointment from a pharmacy runs $18. This is just the beginning of what's possible. Skill number 6, water sourcing and purification. Your great-grandmother could find water, not on a map, with her eyes. She knew that willows and cottonwoods follow underground water tables. She knew how to read the slope of a field. She knew how to collect dew, filter water through layered sand and charcoal, and boil it with purpose. FEMA's own emergency preparedness data shows that in the average natural disaster, municipal water systems fail within 72 hours. 72 hours. After that, most modern adults have no plan. A simple Homestead water filter, layers of gravel, sand, activated charcoal, and cloth can reduce bacterial contamination significantly enough for survival use. Your great-grandmother built one as a teenager. It costs roughly $10 in materials. A commercial gravity water filter, $200 to $400. Same principle, different packaging. What happens when the tap goes dry will separate the prepared from the desperate. Skill 6 keeps you on the right side of that line. Skill 7 is the one that was specifically lobbied against by a major American industry in the late 1950s. This knowledge was legal, effective, and virtually free, and they killed it anyway. Keep watching. Skill number 7, home food preservation, pressure canning. In 1950s America, food corporations needed households to buy canned goods, but millions of families were still canning their own. The technology was simple. The cost was minimal. The results were extraordinary. A family that canned their own food was estimated to save the equivalent of 35 to 40% of their annual food budget. Lobby groups connected to the commercial food industry pushed narrative campaigns portraying home canning as dangerous and difficult. They weren't entirely wrong about risks. Botulism in improperly processed low-acid foods is real, but they amplified fear far beyond what proper technique warranted. They wanted you scared. They wanted you dependent. Here's the truth your great-grandmother knew. The $80 pressure canner, used correctly, can safely preserve hundreds of pounds of meat, vegetables, beans, and broth every single year. No refrigeration needed. Shelf-stable for 3 to 5 years. The food corporations charge you $3 to $5 per can for what costs you pennies to produce yourself. Skill 7 is not a hobby. It is financial resistance. Skill number 8, animal husbandry basics. Picture a young girl in rural Georgia, 1915. By the time she's 12, she's already helped birth 2 litters of piglets, raised chickens from hatch to harvest, milked a cow without being told twice, and understood the basics of animal health well enough to identify illness before it spread through the flock. Today, most adults have never been within 10 feet of a living farm animal outside a petting zoo. That same 12-year-old girl understood caloric output per animal, feed conversion ratios, and seasonal breeding cycles. Not in those words, but in practice. Even 2 backyard chickens produce enough eggs to significantly reduce a family's grocery spending. Urban homesteaders in cities across America now report saving $600 to $1,000 annually just from small-scale poultry keeping. The knowledge to do it has always been free. The decision to do it is all that was ever missing. Skill number 9, soap and candle making. Line, fat, water, 3 ingredients. The same 3 ingredients your great-grandmother combined in a cast iron pot to make soap that cleaned everything: dishes, laundry, skin, wounds. The average American household spends over $600 per year on cleaning and personal care products. A homemade lye soap costs approximately $0.30 per bar to produce in a basic batch. The chemistry hasn't changed since Roman soldiers scrubbed themselves with a primitive version discovered, according to legend, from animal fats rendered near sacrificial fires washing into riverbanks. Candle making follows the same logic: beeswax or tallow, a wick, a mold. Your great-grandmother made candles not as a craft hobby but as a utility, light that cost nothing but effort. Today's artisan candles sell for $24 to $45 in stores. The raw materials for a dozen candles? Under $8. They didn't teach you this in school. That was never a coincidence. Skill, under 10. Natural building and repair. The last skill is the one that ties everything together. Your great-grandmother could fix things, not call someone to fix things, not watch a YouTube tutorial then give up. Fix them. She could patch a roof, re-chink a wall with clay and straw, repair a broken tool handle, waterproof a boot, mend clothing until it fell apart, and then use the scraps for quilting. She lived in a culture of repair rather than replacement. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation estimates that a circular repair economy could reduce household material costs by up to 70% annually. Your great-grandmother didn't have a foundation studying her. She just lived it. Natural building techniques, cob, adobe, earthbag, have been validated by modern structural engineers for low-cost, thermally efficient, earthquake-resistant construction. Indigenous communities across the American Southwest have lived in adobe structures for over 700 years. The U.S. housing market will sell you a $400,000 starter home. Your great-grandmother could have built you a shelter from the earth beneath your feet. Now, I have to be straight with you. None of this is a complete replacement for modern infrastructure in every situation. If you have a serious illness, see a doctor. If you're building a permanent structure, work within local codes. If you're new to canning, take a class from your county extension office first. This knowledge is a foundation, not a fantasy. It was designed to complement modern life, not reject it. The people who practiced these skills weren't living in a golden age. They worked hard. They buried children. They faced real hardship. But they were not helpless, and neither are you. Here's what's true. A 12-year-old girl in 1923 could preserve food without electricity, heal a wound without a pharmacy, find water without an app, build warmth without a utility bill, and grow food without a grocery store. That knowledge existed for thousands of years. It was documented by the Romans. It was practiced by the Egyptians. It was refined by every civilization that survived long enough to pass something down. Modern science has confirmed it, validated it, and in some cases, built billion-dollar industries trying to replicate it artificially. And now you know it. The ancient world built on it. Your great-grandmother lived it. The corporations buried it. Science resurrected it. And this video just put it back in your hands. If this changed how you think about what a self-sufficient life actually looks like, share it. Not for the algorithm. Because every share keeps alive what they tried to erase. Drop a comment below. Which skill are you starting with first? I read every single one. And if you want the deep dive on any of these, the step-by-step, the tools, the suppliers, the exact process, subscribe. Because we're just getting started.